Charlie Mike. Yeah. Let's go.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Charlie Mike Show. As always, I'm your host, Raul. and your co-host, William.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? It just gets funnier because it is weird. It's weird to hear it. You know, we still are known for Charlie Mike, the podcast, but we are transitioning. We are the Charlie Mike Show because this is what you get here. And we're coming to you from the Pearland Podcast Studio, located just south of Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir, man. What you been doing, man? Hey, we're knocking out interviews today,
I
bro.
know. It feels good.
Yeah,
feels
it does.
good.
It does.
Life is good, man. I'm blessed. You know, the interview before this was Trevor Neal. We got to get two of them done on the same day. We still got the live shows going on, so we'll schedule live shows on Fridays. Because it's funny, bro, that, you know, we were doing live shows, and then we moved to pre-recorded, you know, getting better there. And then it was like, we kind of missed a live show, so we were just like, let's just start doing lives on Fridays.
Yeah. you know what's crazy is today on Facebook, a memory popped up. I think it was 1 year or 2 years ago where we were at Ricky's.
Yeah.
And just like, it's a camera view of an interview, and I'm like, holy
Yeah.
Talk about upgrade, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, definitely. That's what's up.
Yeah, it's good. So, thank you all for following along and continuing along this journey and allowing us to bring on guests that we find interesting. If you want to be a guest on the show, or if you're interested, or if you have someone that you want to highlight, like, hey, you know what, this guy would be a great person or gal, you know, there's not enough representation for female veterans, send them my way, William at charliemikethepodcast.com.
Yes, so y'all be sure to do that. Now, we have a guest in the building today, and I tell you what, this guy is one of a kind. He is like no other. Man, Joe, so what do you like to go by? Joe is cool?
Joe is good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So Joe actually came way to us. Mr. Joe Murray came from us from a friend of ours, Mr. Matthew Marin, who was also a guest on the show. He's been doing some work with us. We've been working together, collaborating, and it's been an interesting ride. And you know, as we get to know him more, we're like, okay, how do we get him on the show? Let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. He's a good dude, man.
Because I know we've talked about, you know, where you've come from, but we never really dug into like Joe's story because Joe does a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Like he's not here. You do a lot, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So take us back, man. What did you do before the military?
So I was born and raised in Texas, raised in San Antonio.
Bravo.
And
Texas.
Yeah, Texas. And it was pretty sheltered, actually, pretty sheltered suburban life. I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened, ended up joining the Marine Corps, did 2 tours in Iraq, got out, used my GI Bill, and got my undergrad and my master's from Texas A&M, ended up in Houston, Texas, and I worked in the corporate world for a few years. It just wasn't a good fit for me, and definitely not what I wanted to do in the long term. And about the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot of film, a lot of photography, a lot of writing, and advocacy work for veterans and now for first responders.
That's a heck of a history, bro.
Yeah, it is, man. So let's go back. We're gonna start off with 9/11. So you were a senior in high school. What was that day like for you? What did you see? How did you feel?
This is San Antonio, right?
Yeah, this is San Antonio. I got there in the morning, and everybody was kind of talking about, this plane crash. And at first, everybody kind of thought it was an accident. And we all went to class, and while we were in class, people started, the word started getting around, hey, a second plane hit. This isn't, this isn't an accident. We're under attack. And yeah, that was it. And then we turned the TV on and saw the towers come down, and it was a really, I don't even really know how to describe it. I mean, that's our I think I'm sure, our whole generation, we can all kind of tell where we were when that whole incident happened. I had good grades in high school, A/B student, and the expectation was that I was going to go to college. I had already been talking to a Marine Corps recruiter, and that day he happened to be down in the counseling office. I went down there. I was like, I want to leave like as soon as I possibly can. And I within a few days of each other, I turned 18 on June the 5th. So I graduated. I was still 17. I think I turned 18 like the next day. And that day I got on a bus and left for boot camp and started boot camp on June the 9th.
Oh, tell us that story, because I remember you had an issue with your ID, right?
Yeah. So because I turned 18, I guess in Texas your driver's license expires on your 18th birthday and you need to go get a new one, or I'm not entirely certain on how that worked, but anyway, it expired on my 18th birthday, and so when we were leaving, they said, all right, IDs, and I pulled my ID out, and they said, oh, your ID expires today, we can't let you go. And so what ended up happening is we ended up just running to the DMV, and they gave me some temporary, explained what was going on, they gave me some temporary paperwork. They ended up letting me go, but yeah.
I think I remember that.
Yeah,
I think it did. I think because it went a different way, right? Yours went vertical, right?
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes vertical.
Something like that,
If you're
yeah.
a minor.
Yeah.
And then when you become an adult,
Yeah.
18, it goes horizontal.
Yeah.
But yeah, did boot camp at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. Did engineering and demolition school at Camp Lejeune on the East Coast, and then I think I reported in. I actually left Christmas Day, 2002. They sent me back home after engineering and demo school, and I spent about a week at home, and then I actually had to leave on Christmas Day because I had to report in on like the 29th of December, and I had to drive myself and everything I owned from South Central Texas to Camp Pendleton, just north of San Diego, south of LA, and
It's a heck of a drive, too.
I've made it repeatedly.
I imagine. I imagine.
But yeah, I checked in. I checked in a couple days later, and they told me like, don't even unpack your stuff. And so like I got there like December 29th or something like that, and then January 2003. It was either the end of January or the beginning of February. We deployed to the Kuwaiti desert, and when they dropped us off out there, there was nothing. There was nothing. It was just like we had our tents and our sleeping bags and some engineering equipment, and we had to make our shelter. We made the base that was out there. Camp Bedio, I don't even think you can find it on a map anymore. It was just a sand berm and some tents. That was pretty much it. But
That was the initial, huh?
Yeah.
yeah. And then the war started like 6 or 8 weeks later, and so yeah, it was a trip, man.
So your whole reason to going into the Marine Corps was because of 9/11, or did you have that already in?
I was already talking to a recruiter because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go the college route and maybe do some reserves or something like that. Like we had already been talking. I was already involved, but it wasn't the green light go until like when 9/11 happened. That's when it was like, all right, let's do this right now.
When what was your degree in A&M?
A&M, I got my undergrad and my master's in geology and geochemistry.
Oh, we got a smart one.
Freaking nerd.
Yeah. What year was that?
So I got out of the Marine Corps active duty June of 2006, and then I think in 2007 I started at Texas A&M.
Dang.
Yeah.
Then I think I finished my master's in like December of 2014, something like that.
Dang.
So let's go back. So you were in Kuwait. You make the initial push. How many deployments total did you do?
I did 2 deployments.
Yeah.
I did the initial push March of 2003. It was one of the running across literally running through a burning oil field in a green chemical suit, and
Good times.
It was something else, man. I'll tell you what. It's not something you forget.
I imagine, and I know, like even when I joined was after, right? After the push, after the initial invasion. So there can't be a whole lot of you guys out there, you know, or too many of folks who have that experience of crossing it. And when you do, you know, our last guest was sharing some of the same things, like that shared struggle. Like, you know, do you still have or keep in contact with a lot of those guys that you went with?
Oh yeah, back in March, my buddy Bobby, who actually I did the push with, Bobby Navowski, he lost his fight March 19th, and we all got together, dude. 17 of us.
Dang.
One guy was just from the unit. He actually didn't do the push with us, but there were 16 Marines that all invaded Iraq together, and we all met in Pine Bluff, Arkansas for his service. And it was kind of a trip because it was like going backwards in time 20 years. I mean, like the platoon sergeant was still, you know, the squad leader was still there, and the scribe was still the scribe. And it's like we were all talking and acting like we did. Like we were back. We were back in the hooch, man, like playing cards and dominoes and, you know, drinking ourselves unconscious. And
It's an awesome experience, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
just being able to link up, and it's like you say, everything just picks back up. I experienced the same thing about a year ago myself. We had a buddy pass, and like 10 or 11 of us went to Wyoming.
yeah,
Bro, talk about country.
yeah.
It was like but it was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny to like put us all together again, and we were all the same.
Was it so y'all were like, even like this one dude we called Nacho? I mean, like as soon as we got back, the jokes started flying again. I mean, it really did. I mean, like it was almost like, I mean, seriously, it like if I had closed my eyes, I would have, and you would ask me where is this memory happening, I would have said we're in a hooch in Diwania or Karbala, or we're back on base, like BSing and playing cards. Like it felt and sounded exactly the same way to me.
Exactly, man. It was exactly the same. We had a lot of fun. It was just, we were making fun of each other.
Yeah.
The same guy. There was a guy, Dwayne. I'm putting you on blast. We were just cracking jokes at him. And it was just that way. It was good. But it did me a lot of good, man.
Yeah.
And you know what the funny thing is? Our buddy Brown, who passed, you said Nacho. His favorite movie was Nacho Libre.
Oh, God.
So we had all these masks that we wore at the funerals, the Nacho Libre mask,
Yeah.
bro. And on his tombstone, there's a quote from Nacho Libre.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's love, bro.
Man,
That's what love.
What's the quote?
man, I don't.
You don't know?
I don't
I'm
remember.
gonna Google
I had to tell you. Billy, what's the quote?
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah. But man, that's amazing. I mean, like you say, it was great times, but for a shitty reason.
Yeah, I wish we had started getting together. Like, and we're still getting together. Like, I'm going on a fishing trip with them, a bunch of them in September. We have all 17 of us that showed up at the service. We have a text thread, and it's like I have to silence the notifications because it'll just be going off all day. And so I check it like several times a day because there'll be 25 or 30 just back and forth, and it's the same stuff. And I love it. I mean, like these people, these Marines, they function as my family. So. Yeah,
it's crazy because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
we got a thread. We're going to Colorado this year.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Oh yeah. When are we going?
We.
Oh, we're not going. You're going.
You can come.
No, it's okay.
You can come.
Wow. You think you know a guy?
You think you know a guy? Yeah. Man, so tell us. So you got out of the Marine Corps, and you went straight into college. When you getting out of the Marine Corps, was it a struggle for you?
If you wanted to put it nicely, you could call it a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was pretty fried. After the first tour, did the push. I think that was like a 10 or 11 month tour. I ended up extending while I was out there, but then we went back for 6 or 7 months later, and not even a year later, went back to the beautiful town of Fallujah for Operation Phantom Fury. And so, two pretty banging tours back to back. Anyway, I had, I think I was back for maybe a year or something like that, and then, applied for college and left. And so, at this point, I'm only 21 years old. I was a non-commissioned officer in the Marine Corps with 2 tours before I was old enough to drink.
That's insane, eh?
That's wild. I can't. It doesn't even feel real. But yeah, I mean, so I got out as a sergeant. I'm 21 years old, and I was still very much a Marine sergeant in a combat zone. Going to Texas A&M University.
That's the movie you should make right there.
And it did not go well.
Fuck Rudy. Let's make that movie.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a feel good, bro. Yeah. that doesn't have a great ending with everybody cheering.
It does. It does. You're
not at the college. It doesn't.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I believe that. Yeah. Okay, it makes sense. Yeah, you aren't being carried off the field in that one. Huh? No. Well, you might be.
Yeah, not in a good way.
Yeah,
I did leave with 2 degrees though. So
there you
go.
And I
am. I'm very, very grateful to Texas A&M. It was a very difficult time of my life, but if you're going to go through that, I'm just so grateful I got to go through it there with those people, because the culture of kindness and politeness and it was what I needed, and it was pretty steep learning curve, but I thank God I ended up there and not somewhere else.
Texas, baby.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Yeah.
That's a good deal. I think. What advice would you have for folks that are getting ready to transition and looking to go into school?
I'm not sure I'm in a good place to be giving people like life advice.
Let me put it this way. You've experienced it, right? And at the time, you didn't have, more than likely, the resources that we have now.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
There's not. The culture's different.
The culture's completely different.
Right? So, what can you say about your experience going into college that you're like, what, if I have to do it again, this is something that I might change, or I might try this instead?
I can tell you that what I did, I can tell you what I did, and I guess you can maybe draw your own conclusions, but I was drinking like really, really heavily at the time, but I was a very high functioning, I was getting, very good grades, nearly straight A's. But like my addiction, I had 3 addictions at the time: alcohol, exercise. I would exercise until I'd injure myself. And school. And I mean, like it was to the point that it was unhealthy, like even, 6 days a week, but, then I'd go home and, chug a bottle of wine before bed every night. I was having 7 to 10 bottles of wine a week.
Jeez.
For more than 10 years. But I was able to justify it by saying, like, look how good my grades are, though. Like, people were trying to tell me, and people were straight up telling me, like, hey, something's definitely not right. And I was like, shut up and look at the results.
Yeah, I'm fit. I've got good grades.
I'm jacked. I've got good grades. Whatever. But the thing I tell, whether you're talking about coming out of the military or being on first responder or something like that. One thing, if I could go back, because all the warning signs were there, I just didn't recognize them. And even if I had recognized them, I wouldn't have known what to do with them. The thing to watch, it's like in my own personal life, I do this today. In fact, I'm leaving on Saturday because those red flags are popping again. first thing that's going to go is your sleep. And so, you know, it's a really miserable feeling when your just mind is just going. And so, you know, that's the first thing that goes. And then the second thing is going to come some sort of substance. It can be alcohol, it can be marijuana, it can be, God help you, some other drug or whatever else. That's the second thing that comes. And then the third thing that comes is the anger. And, you know, working on this project that you and me are that we're working on here, I mean, for the first time in years, I'm like regularly having really bad nightmares. And like, I used to, like, it's been years since it's been bad. You know, fortunately I'm not drinking again, but the urges are there. And so now it's like, okay, that's, you know, I'm at stage 2. I'm coming up on stage 2. It's time for me to take a step back. And that's why I'm leaving. I'm like, hey, I have to put this down and step away from it. And so what I tell anybody is like, kind of monitor, you know, if you're coming out of the military or you're making any transition or whatever else, monitor those 3 things. And like, if you're like having anger issues, it's time to get help like right now, like right now, because that is the pain, that is the suffering and the frustration that is just coming out of your body. And who catches that? It's our family. It's our friends and our family. That's who ends up catching that pain and that suffering that's going on inside. And it's not because there's something wrong with them. It's just because they're the ones that are closest to us. And they're the ones, you know, that pain and that suffering, it stores up and it builds inside of you. And then it's just, I call it the lightning rod effect. You know, your kid spills a soda and you just go, ape shit. Yeah, just ape shit. Or, you know, that's the pain coming out. And so if these things are happening, don't keep doing what you're doing. I don't know what the answer is for me all the time. I definitely don't know what the answer is for you, but it's time to do something. And so I don't, you know, a great place to start is with a mental health expert, and just like, you know, you go get your car tuned up, like call somebody and just talk it out. Just be like, hey, this is what's going on, and just get an outside opinion, because what's a real bummer about these kinds of psychological issues is you can't see them getting worse because you can't like see yourself. And so, you know, something like maybe isn't going well, but like there's no mirror for your consciousness. You can't like turn and look at it and go, man, I look different today. Like, and so these things, they just kind of creep and get worse and worse and worse. And, you know, having someone to talk to can at least help you recognize where you're at. And so I think that's a good, you know, a great place to start. You know, if you're hearing noise under the hood, pop the hood.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to necessarily go crazy, but like, you know, with whatever, but don't wait. Like, you start seeing these red flags, it's time to do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
Right.
You know, I don't know what it is, but I said do something. Don't drink or do drugs. Don't do that something. Do something else.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy that you talk about, you're well-spoken, and you have a lot of knowledge, and it comes out when you speak. And I love that talking to you. We talked about, we're working on this project, and with this project, when you initially brought me everything, I submerged myself in it.
Yeah.
Bro, like night and day, I was just listening. And
Yeah.
I'm a different type of person. I live on positivity, and I live on happy thoughts and and things like that. So I didn't catch myself, and I think we spoke on it, right?
Yeah, you and me.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I think something's up.
Yeah.
You know, because I was listening constantly, just so much trauma and craziness in the world that I was bringing back my own shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I told him, I gotta step back a little bit.
Yeah. Dude, you know what I've learned on this journey, especially these last 5 years, I have this like mantra, and it's the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts.
Oh man. Yeah.
That is it. And so I think like when I kind of look at the times when I was struggling with the most like crippling depression and the most anxiety and just blah, 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 that inner dialogue was just an absolute nightmare. just negativity. And, you know, while that's happening is your body's releasing stress hormones, and you're also reinforcing these patterns of thinking and, you know, getting into neuroplasticity and all of that other stuff. But what I think got me out of all of that was I looked at it like, okay, this is basically like a bad way. I just have bad protocols. I have a bad way of thinking, and I need to adjust that. And so really just focusing on improving that dialogue is just absolutely, that's what I do. That's what I focus on. When I'm depressed or I'm anxiety, like, okay, what am I thinking? Because you can't be thinking about horrible stuff and be happy at the same time, or at least it's really, really hard to do that.
Yeah.
And you and me going through these you know, interviews with the first responders and hearing just the tragedy and the suffering, and it's not like we're just seeing it. It's not like, oh, we heard a news report. We're doing it for like 8 or 10 hours a day. And then like, no, that
On
was
repeat.
Dude, the Spider-Man pajamas one.
That one broke me.
Dude,
I told him about that one.
Dude, I like, bro, that episode took me offline for like a week, dude. Like I guess it was an anxiety attack. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I remember finishing it up the next day. I was trying to drive somewhere, and then it was just like, it was like someone just kicked me in the chest. And I was driving my car, and like I pulled into like a Denny's parking lot. And I mean, I don't think I could have passed a field sobriety test. In fact, I'm sure I can't. I don't even. And I mean, I guess it was an anxiety attack. It was just kind of all of it, you know, I mean, just all of it. And then, you know, you work on it all day, and then you can't turn it off, and then you dream about it. And then it's like.
And so for those of you that don't know what, you know, we've been hinting around it, and can you, I mean, I don't know how much information you can disclose yet, because what we're discussing is the effects of PTSD and trauma. Joe's working on it on a documentary series.
Yeah, I think that what we're going to call an investigative audio docu-series.
Right, okay. And so he's interviewed first responders about what they've been dealing with, and and how they deal with their trauma. And it gets deep, you know, because they deal with a lot of stuff that not everyone, not even vets, really deal with. And Raul has been listening to these same recordings, and they've been working on editing and cleaning up the audio and making sure it sounds great and to present it correctly, you know, to honor the folks that have shared and those who they're representing. So if you're curious about what it is they're working on, that's what it is. It hasn't come out yet, but we'll let you guys know when it does. So to kind of put a nice bow on this, you talked about some of the red flags. First is sleep to go. Then you'll start to notice your addictions, and you've mentioned addictions as different things, you know, whether it be alcohol or other drugs,
but it can be anything.
Yeah,
it can be working out. It can be video games.
Yeah.
It can be
Work.
video games. It can be work, and like video games and work are very, very, and exercise can be like, and you should be exercising at least, you know, an hour a day, 45 minutes. But like, I was like 3 hours a day, you know, or on days when I didn't have like work to do, like I mean,
fill it with working out. Yeah. And then the last flag is anger. Anger will show itself. And so if you don't see those, so if you're out there and you're like, what is he actually talking about? Like, sleep is hard for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Raul. Sleep is hard for a lot of folks, but sleep affects so many things. You can go without food longer than you can go without sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it takes up a third of your day. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff revolves around sleep. And so if you're starting to notice you're not being able to sleep as well, that's one of the things that we encourage you to get back to.
Yeah.
Man, we were coming back. We went to go eat at Killen's Barbecue down the road.
Oh, yeah.
This one day. And we were coming back, and I kind of had like a anxiety/panic attack in the car over something stupid. Like, I forgot what. We were going to get shakes or ice cream, and we couldn't decide where we wanted the shakes or ice cream from. And I fucking was like, I was like, I gotta leave. I said, I just want to get back to the office. So we got here, and I took off.
Yeah.
You know, I just like needed to like.
Yeah.
Didn't say nothing or anything.
Yeah.
Just said, grab this stuff, and was like, I'll be back.
Yeah.
maybe
And
he did
did
say
you have your
something.
family with you, or
No, it
No,
was us.
It was us.
Yeah,
It was us three.
it was me, him, and Jelly.
yeah?
Yeah, and
We were gonna do something, and he was like,
And-
"Nope, just take me back to the office."
And that's and that kind of thing would tell me, like, for me, when that stuff starts happening for me, like sometimes every now and again, but like when it starts happening as a pattern, like that's when it's time to do something. Like, get it when it's small. You know, a little bitty trash can fire is way easier to put out than an entire building fire.
oh yeah,
And so, like, for me, listen to those red flags and take them seriously. And a good place to start is by talking to a professional or a peer support group. You know, if you're a police officer or a firefighter, call your peer support for the love of goodness. You know, but it's you know, everybody's journey is going to be different, and everybody's experience with PTSD is going to be different. So everybody's might be, you might be different, but as a framework for most people, like, I think if you watch your sleep, your addictions, and your anger, I think that is a solid framework to start with.
Now I want to ask you. Now you can say, okay, that's something we don't want to discuss, or it's up to you. How do you feel about therapeutics, psychedelics?
Yeah, you know, it's a field of research I've been interested in and been following, and it's showing a lot of promise. I wish that the the powers to be, the federal government or whatever, it seems so promising. I think that I'd like to see a lot more funding and research into this, and if it is, we're looking at initial results, we're looking at relatively small data sets, but these data sets and the results are just so encouraging and so promising that I think I can't remember if it was Harvard or Berkeley or something like that, but one of the doctors there said, this is the greatest breakthrough in mental health, like the same thing like antibiotics was for disease.
It's funny because it's not like it's new. It's just the first time that it's actually being studied.
Yeah, studied.
Studied. And I think there might be a population of folks out there that'd be willing to, volunteer.
Me.
There's already extensive studies, and I remember seeing that they were looking for volunteers on several of them. And
I'm not to be political or anything like that, but one of the local congressmen, Dan Crenshaw, came up with a bill. And it's exactly that, to study the effects of psychedelics when it comes to veterans. And it's got a momentum behind it from Republicans and Democrats. It's not like one is saying the other one, they're both agreeing on it. And we all know that never happens. And it's about helping our heroes and helping our vet. I didn't necessarily mean heroes, because that's not what I am, but I meant like our veterans, our first responders, our firefighters, we got EMTs, nurses, doctors.
Anybody, even like kids that grew up in bad neighborhoods, or somebody grew up, had domestic violence or sexual violence, and if they could benefit from the treatments, I think it just needs to be closely and properly monitored. Until we can determine it's how safe and effective it is. Just right now, I'm concerned that there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of people that just don't have scientific or medical backgrounds administering really substantial doses, and so it just the sooner we get the scientific method behind it and the funding behind it, I think the better everybody will be. So
you heard of a nonprofit, right? Heroic Heroes?
Heroic Hearts.
Heroic Hearts.
Yeah. That's the one that's giving psychedelics to veterans?
Yeah. Well, they're doing trips. They're taking trips to South America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's I've been in contact with one of these organizations, and I've done some work.
Yeah. My number.
Let them know.
Tell them to call me.
Well, there's an organization I'm associated with, and I can't release a lot of the details yet, but I am working on when I'm done with this project, there's a good chance that's going to be my next one, is investigating the use of psychedelic treatments.
We're in.
Hey, bro, you need a cameraman and an audio guy.
And you need someone to document the series. You need a guinea pig. I am here for you.
I mean, and you know, just to disclose, you know, I've been to several of these ceremonies right now, and I have photographed and videoed and done interviews with people that were receiving these treatments. And I'm we're not at that point in the project where I can really start releasing details.
No, it's all good.
We're just not there yet.
I was just more curious about it because we've had several guests come on, and you know, one of them is a huge advocate for it. Live American Yogi is his brand. He's a t-shirt brand, and he does a lot of work with Heroic Hearts. And I just think it's so curious because you know, there's more and more awareness coming about it. And I see a lot more focus for vets on that.
And I researched the crap out of it, man, because it's something that interests me. You know, anything to better my mind and better me as a person. And especially if it helps me, I know it'll help others.
Yeah.
And if we find, let me say it like this. Like everyone I spoke to, I haven't heard a bad thing about it.
Right.
I've heard it all helping the individual on what they were trying to do in
you know, we need to be, you know, as you know, I consider myself a scientist with a scientific background in training and research. We need to be careful with very small data sets, and with we need to be careful with if we haven't taken proper measurements and done proper recordings, we need to be careful. Just like, I spoke with this one person and it worked great. I'm not, as a scientist, I want a lot more rigorous data control.
Okay.
But it's
promising.
It's you know, we'll have to talk about it some more. It's a very cool. it's a fascinating and promising thing. I'm kind of tripping over my words here.
What are some other ways, then, besides the psychedelics, that you have seen has helped folks with some of this more severe traumatic stress?
Man, I'm just not really sure anything works better than hard work in the sun, doing something with your hands, doing something outdoors, doing something with animals. I think the most unhealthy thing anybody with trauma, or actually probably just anybody ever, being idle and being inactive, I think is profoundly unhealthy. It doesn't even matter. Like if podcasting and production, that's going to be your thing. Fine. If it's working at the animal shelter or volunteering at hospice, or, you know, for instance, me, I'm going to work at a farm in Montana, and, you know, 8-10 hours a day, I'll be outside working with my hands, and I get to, you know, be in a beautiful environment with wonderful people, and I get to see the fruit of my labor, in many cases, literally. And I think that's a big thing. It doesn't matter what your thing is. It can be photography. It can be film. Give yourself to your grandchildren. Do peer support with, you know, your last apartment. It doesn't matter what it is, but it has to be something. And I think if you're physically able, I think being outside and in a place where it's possible, it's just not possible here in Houston during the summer.
No.
And that's why I'm going to Montana on Saturday, because I need it. Like, I need the outdoors. I need the fresh air. I need the sunlight, like the sun in my face. Like, I need it.
You know, Raul and I have been kind of going back and forth with this whole, you know, warrior in a garden better than, you know, rather than gardener in a war, right? And
say it one more time.
So it's better to be a warrior in a garden than to be a gardener in a war.
That's right.
Right. Ancient Chinese proverb. So what I think we were going with is, like, a lot of the veterans, we don't realize that we were that warrior, right?
Yeah.
Now there's many things, many ways for us. We got to learn to be the gardener.
That's right.
Right.
That's
so,
beautiful.
Yeah,
man.
it's great to be that. Right. Got it. We're all warriors, but we learned to be that.
Yeah.
Right. We trained to do that. Now it's on us to train to be gardeners.
Yeah.
Right. Working with our hands.
That's right.
Seeing the fruits of our labor, like putting in the time, making the progress. I think that's something that we can definitely hit on more. It's like, how do we learn to do that?
Yeah.
Right. How do we learn to garden?
I
Got it. War. Got it.
You know, I see so many veterans, and they go out, like, a lot of the veterans I see will make knives or get into, like, producing leather goods. And it's not necessarily they're trying to go out and build a gigantic business, but it's something, I'm telling you, it's not something we're taught, but like learning a craft and then mastering it is just one of those great rewards of being alive. And so it doesn't matter what it is, but just seeing that you can do it and improve it and master it. And this is the same thing. I'm sure if you look back 6 months to when you started this, like you're growing, you're mastering this production thing. This is how you're getting to express your intellect and your creative ability. You know, it can be something like this. You don't have to go out and paint the Mona Lisa or, carve the statue of David, but it has to be something, and you have to be able to look at it and go, I did that. And, it can be like, I helped raise my grandchildren. I contributed to my church. I made life, I provided company and compassion to a dying person. That will not only fill up your needs, it will overflow your cup. But it has to be something. And it can't be like, I have this horrible job that I hate. I do 8 hours a day and that's it. That's not why we are here.
Yeah.
That is not living. That is trading your life for a little bit of money. And so another big thing, another really big one, especially for me, if you're early in your journey, you got to be very particular about the people you surround yourself with. If you're surrounding yourself with negative and angry people, like you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. And so if you're surrounding yourself with like mean people, you're going to be mean. Angry people, you're going to be angry. Negative people, you're going to be negative. And so at the beginning of my journey, like I think it was made possible by taking a step back from certain relationships and just being like, all right, peace. Some of those relationships I came back to, and I'm very happy because I'm a healthier person. They're a healthier person. We have clear understanding about boundaries, and some people I just removed from my life completely. And in fact, one of my biggest regrets in life, if I can look at several relationships, if I had the wherewithal to end those relationships sooner, how much different my life would have been. Because it was just like, okay, well, there was decades of suffering that just produced nothing good.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, at least not a whole lot of anything good.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't worth, the good times definitely weren't worth the bad times. Definitely not. Not that there were never good times.
I felt all that. Yeah, man.
You did?
Yeah. I completely understand. Yeah, that was, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's dude, I mean, for me, I don't think if the healing I was able to do because I stepped back from some of those relationships. I don't think I would be here right now. Like the journey to my healing, I mean, if you had met me 5 years ago, you'd been like, oh, this brother here needs to go check into the VA, like straight up. Mm-hmm. Like that's where I was at 5 years ago. Like this brother here is going to end up another statistic. And I almost did. But ending those relationships and taking a step back and getting away from it, the only thing that was left was me and my problems. And those I could address. Right. Like, exactly. I mean, I didn't really start going to get counseling until 2017, 2018. And I remember, I ended up in counseling for the war PTSD. And the counselor at one point was like, how was your weekend? And I told her, and she was like, wait, what? And I was like, what? And she's like, no, wait, that needs to be addressed right now. And anyway, what she ultimately told me, she's like, I don't recommend this for everybody. In fact, I recommend it for almost nobody. But she said, put it this way. The best surgeon in the world can't save a patient if someone keeps running back into the room and stabbing them. Like, we need to stop the trauma. Like this, what's happening here in this relationship with you is in both directions is like, we need to stop that first. Then we're going to be able to start healing. And so it's hard to have a happy, healthy mind if you have unhealthy relationships. And so, so anyway, that was a long way around about choosing your relationships very, very carefully.
Yeah.
No, because, before, when I was at that nonprofit, I was also a financial coach, and that's what we used to say when it came to credit cards and getting out of debt. It's like, in order to get out of the hole you're in, stop digging.
Stop digging.
Stop digging. And when you can stop digging, then you can start to fill the hole. And that's what I hear you saying too,
Yeah.
just in a different context.
Yes,
right?
yeah. One's
Like,
with
look,
relationships,
yeah,
and one's with finance, and
exactly.
they're both. I think it's true in both cases.
And when you say relationships, it's not just relationships like
Romantic.
friendship. Yeah, not just romantic
Oh, no,
relationships.
yeah,
It's
no.
friendships, things like that. You know, I mean, yeah.
And to be clear, it's you have to be brutally honest. And so if so I had it's a little complicated, and I need to be clear that the problem was me. Okay, and that when it comes to your relationships, I am the common denominator in all of my relationships. Okay, and I remember this phrase, and I'm gonna mess it all up, but it said if you think everybody around you is a jerk, it's you. You're the jerk. And I was I had these family relationships that were going really, really, really bad. But then I also had like my business and romantic and personal and friendships, and those were also going really, really bad. And I was the problem in those relationships. And I was in the problem in the other relationship because my doctor was like, you're choosing to be around these people. Like, that,
Right.
like, we're not talking about an isolated incident here. We're talking about a pattern of behavior that has lasted for decades. They're probably not going to change. It's time to at least take a step back. But yeah, focusing the investment I made, and I don't have the right to give anybody relationship advice because I'm so bad at it. But honestly, I just go pick up the books. Pick up the books on relationships and conflict resolution and negotiation, and like that's literally all I did was just picked up the books and read them and was like, okay, what I learned growing up was not a good strategy.
Yeah.
That's just that's not it. I need to find a better strategy. And so if you're improving yourself is something that should never end, and you should always be trying to do it. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And if you're putting in the work and you're taking ultimately responsibility for what's going on, things will continue to get better and better and better over time. And so I wanted to clarify that anyway, that's what I was trying to say is like, with all of the relationships, I wasn't trying to blame everybody else for my relationships.
Yeah. No, we understood.
No.
We,
So you mentioned books. I love books, but do you have any that stand out?
God.
Or any that you go back and reread?
Oh yeah. What was it? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The whole Dale Carnegie series. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you're,
They're like timeless classics, man.
the thing is, not all of it is going to transcend time very well, but it is a great framework to start from, especially if you're like, okay, nothing's working. I don't know what I'm doing. If you just pick up a couple of these books and just do what they say, like it's actually like almost immediately.
And then you start to do what they say, then you make it your own.
And then you make it your own. And
that's where like the magic just happens.
Yeah,
Like, hey,
yeah.
here's their framework. Then you do it. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading The Richest Man in Babylon.
Ooh, yeah.
Classic, and it's like so old, but I'm like, man, these are like just timeless principles. Live on less, and like, put money away, start to invest it. It's just funny.
Yeah.
And like, these things haven't really changed that much.
No, and the thing is like so many of us just weren't taught the fundamentals growing up. Or at least we didn't learn good fundamentals, and so I don't know which book or which philosophy or whatever it is but just go out and just make a point. If you're just picking up books and listening to lectures, watching YouTube with the intention of I want to grow as a person, I am ultimately responsible for myself and my relationships, just doing that, you'll grow. That's watering your garden. That is it. And so like things will get better, and I feel like I'm like.
That's right. You got that talk going now, brother.
Well, I want people to know that it does get better.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, for most of my life, I was like, I'm just going to be miserable, and I'm a broken human being.
And you were okay with that at one point.
And yeah, well, I say I was okay with it. I was just, you know, I was like, something has to change, and I think that taking ultimately responsibility and then just making an effort. A consistent effort like anything else, you know, and so yeah.
Yeah, man, that's phenomenal. I mean, I'm motivated just hearing that. I want to go read my books now.
Go ahead.
Go back.
Nah, man. But hey, we wanted to say, man, thank you for everything. Thank you for coming in and chatting with us, man. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's an experience. I'll tell you that, man. It definitely is. You know,
Most of the people that work with me, they're like, yeah, that was interesting. That was an experience.
No, but you're a good dude, man. I'm glad Matt hooked us up.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's an individual.
He's someone else too.
Yeah. So 2 last things for you. First, you know, like Roll said, thank you for your time, man, and being present. Really appreciate it, man. You do bring a lot of value. You say you're a lot, man, but this was a lot of value. Like really was.
Thanks, man.
So I really appreciate your time and you sharing that with us. So how can someone follow along with you or get in touch with you? If you want them to.
No, yeah, I don't. I'm like so bad at this. I should be better. I don't have I have my own personal Facebook. I need to make all of the. I've had probably 100 people ask me for my social media, and I'm like, I just don't have one.
Yeah.
And so I need to do that. Cool. But yeah. So you can't get a hold of me.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
They can get a hold of you if somebody wants to.
There you go.
There you go.
This is my.
Hey man, can you get us in touch with that guy, that
Yeah.
Joe guy?
We got you. Yeah, reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with Joe.
Yeah. And then my last question is Charlie Mike means continue mission, right? What does that term Charlie Mike mean to you?
Yeah, it means. It means carry on. It means keep going. And you know, one thing I didn't really get to cover. We talked a little bit about my project, but this is what I want our new mission to be as veterans. You know, guys like you, guys like us, you know, we came back and we got resources, we got support, we got the VA, we got respect, we got all of this stuff, you know, we got pensions. And the only reason we got that was because the Vietnam vets made sure we got it. You know, they fought two wars. They fought the war overseas, and then they fought the war at home to make sure that what happened to them didn't happen to us. And, you know, the way I'm going to continue the mission, and I hope y'all join me, I invite all veterans to join me, is, you know, we got what we got because of the Vietnam vets, but there's another group of people that serve our country, and that's our first responders. And we're losing more of them to suicide and to PTSD than are actually being killed in the line of duty. It's a horrible, horrible problem. And so what I'm hoping for us, you know, the way we're going to carry on the mission is we're going to bring them the support and the respect and the resources that we got. That's what I want. That's how I want us to. That's how I'm going to continue this mission. And I hope that y'all consider joining me.
That's a heck of a call to action right there.
Yeah.
And it's true. So, you know, what Joe's talking about is that we've had multiple Vietnam veterans on here, and they say, you know, when they got spit on the face, they were like, this is not going to happen. Right, this is not going to happen to the next generation. And so when 9/11 happened, they all banded together and made sure that we have the life that we do now. What we didn't know, and of course I'm sure not a lot of folks don't know, is there's not something like that for first responders. Because there's a lot of reasons why, but there's not something like that, and especially not just because of COVID, but because of all the trauma that they've seen. And, you know, the war against cops and, you know, the bad name that they get. And it's just like they're suffering. They are suffering, and a lot of times it's in silence. And the people that they'll reach out to the most is probably their own people, and we need to show them that it's more like a little more gratification, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'm grateful. So,
Man, we appreciate you, man, and we're excited to share this upcoming project, man.
Cool, man.
Thank you for being here. Like William said, William, you got something?
Oh, yeah. I know we've talked a lot about trauma and everything that's going on. So if you're in crisis, the number is 988. If you're a military veteran, you press 1. You can call it. You can text it. You can start it online. You can go online if you're interested. You can start an online chat with them, too. There's many, many ways for folks out there. If you're dealing with trauma, if you want more resources, you can do that, too. You can go to that website or that text it, man. I know it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you've never called or dialed it, and you're like, share it. That's the biggest thing we can do is bring more awareness to that.
That's right.
And as always, all of this is ran by Charlie Mike Military Apparel because of what that does. It allows us to do what we do here. So if you like what we wear, if you like the shirts that we do, if you like the message, these shirts keep you going. It's CharlieMikeMilitaryApparel.com.
That's it, you guys. He said it. So be sure to grab you some merch at CharlieMikeMilitaryApparel.com. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Joe, thank you for being here. William, thank you for keep showing up. And hey, we appreciate you guys. As always, you guys be sure to check out my man William on all his social media platforms, IG, TikTok, and Facebook at Mustache Wisdom. If you have a TikTok and you aren't following my man William, shame on you. Be sure to follow him. Mustache Wisdom on TikTok. We're trying to get those numbers up.
Appreciate that, brother.
As always, you guys, thank you for tuning in. And Charlie Mike